Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Chronicle, starring Dane DeHaan, Alex Russell, and Michael B. Jordan, directed by Josh Trank. Now, before I get into this, my personal opinion of the movie versus my point of view of it, I want to give a shout out to someone that requested this show for me to do this one, and that is this person named, and I'm sorry if I'm going to embarrass you, I'm going to do it. His This person's name, from what I saw, was Rule of Thumb, that brought up that I should do Chronicle when I reviewed The Big Lebowski. But and now let's get. So thank you, Rule of Thumb, for making me watch this movie. And I'm gonna just say right now, because you said this wasn't my cup of tea, I've seen this movie before, back in theaters, and I haven't seen it since. And there's a, well, I wouldn't say a reason, but it's because I don't know. I just remember this movie being okay, and we'll see how much if it's good or not if I can remember off the top of my head. But let's get into this movie because I have seen it before. I haven't seen it since, like, I don't know, maybe a decade or so. So let's get into this movie, shall we? Andrew Detmer, played by Dane DeHaan, buys a camera and decides to record everything, starting with his father Richard abusing him like he's nothing, while his mother Karen is dying, which is kind of a sad life for the character. His cousin Matt Garrity, played by Alex Russell, drives Andrew to school, and as they arrive at school, he films cheerleaders, which is really creepy, by the way, and gets picked on by some high school bullies. And again, Andrew's life is sad, in my opinion, as Matt invites Andrew to a high school party, and he reluctantly goes after his father assaulting him in his own bedroom. And Dane DeHaan, whom I said in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 looks a hell of a lot like a young Leonardo DiCaprio, and I like him as the character, but I just don't think he's an actor. I don't think he's a good actor, but he seems kind of flat, in my opinion, in other movies I've seen him in. Besides those two movies, this and Amazing Spider-Man. Like, I saw him in A Cure for Wellness, and I thought he was kind of flat in that one. It wasn't great, but Andrew gets encountered by Casey Letter, who seems to like Andrew as Matt has the hots for her, and he walks out of the party rather depressed because he filmed someone's girlfriend, and he acts like an ass. Well, not Andrew, but the guy, the jealous boyfriend, acts like an asshole about it until he's approached by Steve Montgomery, and by he I'm talking about Andrew, played by the. But he's approached by Steve Montgomery, played by the best actor in this movie, in my opinion, Michael B. Jordan, who, in my opinion, has the best character in the movie, as I have reviewed him before in a couple of movies like Black Panther, that Tom Clancy movie, which I didn't really care for. What was it? Without Remorse? And another Josh Trank movie, that Fantastic Four reboot, that people didn't like all that much, and I didn't think it was that bad, but look at my review and you'll see what I mean. As he, with Matt, brings Andrew and his camera to a hole with something that gives them superpowers. And Matt does come off like a douchebag, as it's the same actor I'll see again in the remake of Carrie from 2013, and I like the first 15 minutes as we know these characters, as one is the shy one, that's Andrew, a jock who'll get into politics, as in the best character in the movie, that's Steve, and the best friend of the shy one, or the cousin, I should rephrase that, that's Matt. As they have pretty good arcs throughout the movie, and their chemistry is a lot of fun. After a blackout on the camera, Andrew, Matt, and Steve film some stuff with the new camera like they're in Jackass, the TV show, as they have superpowers, and after they use it for a little bit, they bleed, and their superpowers look very CGI, as it's found footage of a superhero movie, as this movie is like the Blair Witch Project meets Superman, which is a good mixture, I guess. While Andrew plays with the camera, we hear the father calling the doctor's office as he's yelling at the receptionist because his wife can't breathe, as he sounds like a complete asshole. Andrew, Matt, and Steve hang out and taking advantage of their powers, like making a blower pull up girls' skirts, causing shenanigans at a store, and damaging silverware at a diner, being such perverts to people outside the diner, and causing a car to move on its own from a parking spot, which is sort of fun and a funny time, as they call themselves Mormons to the lady with the car, and Andrew causes an accident by pulling a truck to the river and putting the driver in the hospital, as the first 30 minutes work very well for a comedy found footage movie with a mixture of Superman and Jackass. Matt is upset about Andrew putting a guy in the hospital, and they drive to a construction place as they find Steve can fly, as Andrew learns to fly as Matt tries to fly but is unsuccessful until off screen, as they fly in the sky and have a ton of fun as they play football in the sky and an airplane flies by them. And Andrew drops to the ground with Steve and Matt as they're alive. They shout, "I can fly," which was getting to the point like, I get it. They're high as a kite. As this shouldn't be a movie, as it should be something on YouTube that is considered a dream. Because sometimes I dream of flying like that, as it makes sense as a dream, as the actors do a fine job looking at like they're having fun, as the performances are fine at best. Mac goes to Casey's house to talk to her, which honestly could have been cut out of the movie as the scene was unnecessary. Meanwhile, Andrew and Steve go to Seattle and hangs out on top of the building as they confess about their parents and how they've got talents. And this is where the movie starts to officially fall apart, as Andrew father knows he's up to something, as Andrew gets to the talent show with Steve, and as Matt films the talent show and Casey is there, and Steve introduces Andrew to the stage and they show off their powers on stage, which is the best scene in the movie, as they impress the audience with the magic trick as well as myself. Andrew gets hit on by a girl from high school named Monica. As she starts to kiss Monica while Matt is drunk, he films a message to Andrew as he goes to Casey's house, as Steve tries to film Andrew losing his virginity, but unfortunately Andrew pukes all over Monica and a suit Steve let him borrow for the night, which was really when the movie falls apart. Andrew's father finds the camera while the mother is suffocating, and all he can think about is yelling at Andrew as he believes he's a loser, as Andrew calls the father an idiot, as he is at this point, because while the mother is dying, he's yelling at Andrew and assaults and beats the crap out of him, and makes Andrew feel bad about himself, as Andrew throws him to the side and makes him suffocate but not die. And Steve calls Matt repeatedly as he's worried about Andrew, and Steve flies to Andrew to help him as Andrew kills Steve. And this movie is going from good to mediocre as at best as it dies down rather quickly, from which is a real problem to begin with. Steve's funeral comes, and Matt is pissed at Andrew for using his powers, as Matt tries to call, but Andrew doesn't return the calls, as he's very upset. And I'm kind of turning on this movie at this point, as Andrew says to Steve's grave he lost control, and he misses him, when I don't necessarily believe him. And I'm starting to think, after this and The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I don't think Dane DeHaan is a very good actor, in my opinion, as I said earlier. Andrew pulls a few pieces of the bully's teeth after torturing Andrew for too long, as he's experimenting his powers by crushing a car, and the performances are turning into something very melodramatic, as it's not very believable. The father leaves the house, and Andrew puts on his uniform and tries to rob the douchebags on the street. He gets them injured to death and collects every single dollar from the douchebags. And is he becoming a bank robber now? Like, what the hell is this movie trying to be? As he robs a gas station, and the clerk blows up the gas station, and hospitalizes Andrew, with the father coming to visit him to tell him his mother is dead, and continues to yell and blame Andrew because of his mother's death, And this movie is turning into something I like to call a Two-Face, like the character from Batman. As Matt is at a party with Casey and they go to Seattle to find Andrew causing carnage in Seattle as he drops the father, and Matt saves his life and tries to talk to Andrew as he goes out of control, as Andrew calls himself an apex predator. Sound familiar, guys? And in order for Andrew to calm down, Matt has no choice but to kill Andrew, and as a burial, Matt gets to a mountain and gives Andrew a final message as Matt flies away, and the climax is way too melodramatic and it makes it into a mediocre film at best. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 5.2 out of 10. I like the first 40 minutes of the movie, and the rest of it dies down after that, and it turns into a mediocre film. And I honestly don't think Dane DeHaan is a very good actor after this in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I guess I just don't like him because honestly, he comes off very melodramatic in my opinion, and there's something about him I just don't like looking at. As Alex Russell seems like a douchebag for this whole movie, and maybe when I get to 2013 Carrie, you'll see what I mean. And the best character in the movie, in my opinion, is Michael B. Jordan. And as he dies in the movie starts to fall apart. Overall, the movie was alright. I wouldn't say a great movie by any means, as it was professionally made by Josh Trank, who was the reason that Fantastic Four reboot of his flopped, as I hear he was disruptive on that set, but I'm not here to talk about that. And I didn't think it was that bad. Go back to that review. You'll see what I mean but at the end of the day, it's a mediocre film at best. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this Chronicle, and rule of thumb, thank you for giving me a chance to watch this again. And I will do another request once a year. I'm going to just say that much. And until then, we made it.